All right, I will call the Thursday, April 27, 2023 meeting to order of the City Commission. All 5 commissioners are present. First item on the order of business will be the consideration of the approval of the minutes from April 13, 2023. Questions, changes, or comments on those?
None.
I consider them approved.
Thank you, Reese. Appreciate it. They will stand as presented. Next up, the financial statement from March 2023. Mr. Rupp.
This is financial summaries of revenue and expenditure activities for the City of Hayes, month ended March 31, 2023. Revenues in March totaled $3.8 million. That was an increase of $500,000 compared to the same period as last year. One notable area of increase, it was basically the bulk of it, the transfer of $444,000 to commission capital reserves, and then to the golf course improvement fund for the new golf cart paths. Is that increase. This double entry helps to track the proper accounting for cash basis law on that. A couple of revenue decreases. You'll notice what seems to be a decrease in local alcoholic liquor tax for the general fund by $87,600. You may recall there was a posting error at this time last year, which was corrected in April, so that decrease was rectified. And economic development funds dropped $243,000 when compared to last year. That was the moderate income housing, or MIH, funds passed through for the Frontier Apartments a year ago in connection with that RHID. Expenditures in March totaled $3,753,528. That's an increase of $376,000. A few notable increases in expenditure. There was a credit expenditure in Airport Improvement Fund for $110,000. That was a receipt of the final grant drawdown for the runway 422 light rehab at the airport. Double entry for the golf cart pass mentioned above holds true for the expenditure side. Fleet replacement was up $15,500. Water reclamation electricity increased $25,500 simply due to the timing of the billing. And water production chemicals and general supplies were up a combined $43,600 due to an increase in soda ash orders, as well as items needed to repair several water main breaks within the city. Notable areas of decreased expenditure. Economic development saw that decrease of $243, so it's the other side of that. IT other contractual fell $50,000 when compared to a year ago due to the timing of Tyler Technologies Munis financial software maintenance renewal. Special highway budgeted capital projects was off $10,730 for the road network evaluation conducted at this time last year. And water reclamation reserve projects fell $47,000 for the boring of a reuse line under Big Creek a year ago. Month-to-date general fund sales tax collections were at $744,000. That's an increase of $48,000 or 7% as compared to last year. Year-to-date general fund sales tax is at $2,430,456. That's up $153,500 or 6.7%. The 6-month average is at 1.4. That is a drop of 13% when we compare to a year ago. And month-to-date county sales tax collections were at $88,700. Year-to-date county sales tax is at $292,966. The reported top 10 quarter-to-date sales tax collections by classification was up $178,500 or 7%. Those top 10 represent 75% of the total sales tax collections for the running quarter. And finally, the total par value of the U.S. Treasuries is $62.1 million with a weighted average yield to maturity of 3.2. That's up 2.8% from a year ago. Total of the portfolio certificates of deposit on March 31, 2023 was $7.9 million. So rates have fallen a little on treasuries. We're getting back into the CD game again. The weighted average rate to maturity of those is 4.5%.
I think we should applaud right there.
Right. That rate of maturity is 4.5%. That's up 4.45 from a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Total balance in the money market account on March 31 was $4 million with a current yield of 2.45, and total investments are up $5.7 million.
Make a motion, we approve the March 2023 financial report.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Musil, second by Commissioner Jacobs. Any questions or comments for Kim?
Looks good.
Keep bringing those numbers and those
Yeah.
percentages
Try.
up.
Yeah.
I'll call for a vote for approval. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Next up, citizen comments for non-agenda items. I do believe we have Mr. Jay Harris who would like to speak. Yes, sir.
My name is Jay Harris. I am the new district director for K-State Research and Extension. I also have responsibility of community vitality agent. So I just wanted to come in today, introduce myself, let you know I was on board, and I know Melissa Dixon we were on a conference call yesterday about some things going on with community vitality. It's a program called First Impressions. I don't know if you're familiar with that program, but we've actually matched up with Kearney, Nebraska. And so there will be a group from here going to Kearney to kind of get our first impression of them. They're also sending a group to Hayes as well. Once both teams have visited each of the other cities, K-State will put together a report and we'll share that with everybody. And some of that, what it includes, just your first 5-minute drive through town, what things look like, what's your first impression, and then visiting different businesses, churches, parks, everything involved with the city. And then we'll put together that report, like I said, and then we'll bring that back to you. So just wanted to introduce myself, let you know I'm on board. If you have anything, anything else you want me to look at as far as community vitality, I'll be glad to do that. So
That's exciting. Are you new to the community?
I've been in Hayes for 7 years. Prior to that, I was teacher out at TMP.
Oh,
Some of
my.
my students in here and some of the parents I know from TMP. So, no, we've been here 7 years. My wife is a veterinarian in the community as well.
Sure, okay.
So, she's part of the new AAA Equine Center that's opening up here,
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
hopefully within the next couple weeks. But, well, it was supposed to be open by now, but construction's not finished. So, it'll probably be a little while yet. So,
That's very cool.
Well, we look forward to your vitality.
all right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, any other citizen comments on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. So these are just mayoral appointments for approval for current existing boards. Hayes Area Planning Commission, CVB Advisory Committee, Housing Authority Board, and Hayes Public Library Board.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Barrick. Any questions or comments on these appointments? I will call for a vote for these. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Those pass 5-0. And now we'll move on to new business. Arc Park Phase 3 request to proceed.
Hello, everybody. Sarah Meitner with the Heartland Community Foundation. I'm the director there, but today I'm here representing the Arc of Central Plains as president of their advisory board. We are going to dive right into Arc Park Phase 3. Look at all that fun stuff up there. So just to remind you of the background, Arc Park Playground and Splash Pad opened in September 2021. Since then, thousands of visitors of all abilities have played at the Arc Park. We're featured in this year's edition of the Travel Kansas magazine. We continue to be a leader in the state for inclusive play, drawing inspiration for dozens of other communities, and I say dozens because it has been in the dozens who have contacted us to want to try to do something in their community. Investment has continued. The lights are up. They're in. I don't know if they're turned on yet, but they're installed. The cameras look like they're not far behind. We've added the memorial benches, trash cans, additional signage. There continues to be a lot of activity out there. Tomorrow, the Wonder Woman League will be out there for a park cleanup day. So lots of collaboration and opportunity within the community. Phase 3 initially, as you guys all know, was supposed to be an accessible baseball field. Between 2018 and 2022, when we first got our first estimate for that ball field and to the most recent one last May, the cost for that field more than tripled to just a hair under $1 million. So during the same time, the city of Hayes invested in turf fields out at Bickel-Schmidt. And we started having discussions with the Parks Department, with Hayes Rec, about possibly collaborating in some way, and maybe in a cost-saving way to, first we looked at expanding the turf so it would cover the entire field of one of the fields out at Bickel-Schmidt. Further discussion, we realized that we didn't even really need to do that. The Special Olympics field size for a ball field is 120 feet, and there are 2 fields out at Bickel-Schmidt, maybe more, but at least 2 that are 150 feet. So we have plenty of space to utilize one of those fields. In cooperation with the City of Hayes and Hayes Rec, we did sort of a beta test of using one of the fields out there during our October 2022 baseball and softball season for our Special Olympics athletes. and it went great. We had full use. The rec knew what was going on. They talked to us about utilizing the lights out there. The athletes loved it. So there are some minor field adaptations that will need to be made to the bases, to the, we need to have a temporary fence that can be moved in to block where the grass ends and the turf ends. But the ARC is willing to make that investment with money that's already been raised. During this time, the city also made available the option to do branding out at the field. So we were able to make a 3-year commitment and investment to brand one of the fields as the ARC of Central Plains for our athletes. So here's a photo of some of our smiling faces out there playing. They really did enjoy it, and it worked great. So with feeling like we've met that community need, we moved back to the park at the Phase 3 space over at the ARC Park at 33rd and Hillcrest and Canal in the area, and started having more discussions about what we might be able to add to that area. We narrowed it down to a large picnic shelter, a dedicated cornhole space for tournaments, a really cool piece of equipment called a Qantas, and more sensory play, and then preserving some of the open green space that's already there, so that it can continue to be utilized by soccer teams to practice or other just community use. So this is a site plan of the whole area. And we add where we're wanting to put things. You can see let's see if I can do this right. The parking lot is here, so then that connects with the sidewalk to a picnic shelter. These two are cornhole spaces. This large purple is the new Qantas, which I'll describe shortly. We have more sensory equipment here called the Pulse Tennis. And then just to put it in relation, you can see where how that is in regard to the splash pad and the playground. So up first is the cornhole. So cornhole was selected after much discussion because it is a new Special Olympics sport in the state of Kansas. There will be regionals, there'll be a state tournament. It'll be available for all of the communities throughout Kansas who have teams to want to bring teams. It's a great sport because it is accessible for all ages. So our athletes who have maybe aged and are not able to keep up on like the basketball court can still participate in the social aspects and the athletic fun with something like cornhole. It will be accessible. It'll feature just like this picture on the left with turf in the middle with outlined by concrete. For a nice, still accessible design, a bright colored design. The cornhole boards themselves are permanent. They are made out of a concrete with it's called digifused covering over the top that are brightly colored. It will have a shaded cantilever shades that will act sort of like dugouts over both areas. And having all of this will give us the ability to host tournaments out here, which is something that there aren't any other communities right now that will have a capacity like this. We did have a group of Leadership 310 students who hosted a cornhole tournament for our athletes and members of the community earlier this month. There's a picture of some of them playing in the center picture there, and they loved it. So I did do a little bit of some research and asking them, hey, would you like to see Special Olympics take on cornhole as a sport? And it was all yeses. So the second part to discuss would be a new picnic shelter. The picnic shelter that is currently at the ARC Park is utilized quite frequently. If you're over there, there's frequently birthday parties, reunions, other things. So we would like to add another one. It would be welcoming, it would meet community need, it would feature a similar hex design as the other one, would offer shade, and gives us the potential for more future events. The Qantas is the large piece of equipment that we want to add. It would still have the accessible flooring that is so important over at the ARC Park playground, but it would be driving older kids to come and play at this versus playing at the playground, which might then make the park more family friendly because it gets the big kids off of the playground where maybe they roughhouse a little bit. So the Qantas is very, very new. There's only 8 in the country. Landscape Structures is the manufacturer of it, and they install it themselves. So we want to get on their list so that we can get one here at Hayes. Would be the only one in Kansas. Everybody says that when it's going in, it looks like a roller coaster, so which will be fun to get people excited. It is essentially a ninja course where they are hopping and running on these little, oh, I hit the wrong button, these little hammock things right there. These little black things are kind of hammocks. So they're running and jumping along them, but there's several points. Yes, you can get on there, Commissioner Musil, you'll be able to get on.
Thank you.
And there are several points of entry, and we have talked about some accessible adaptations that we can make so that it is still as accessible as we can make it. But we think that the junior high kids especially will be drawn to this. It also just continues to spread out the users, so they're not just all on the one playground. With that, we want to add some more sensory equipment because it has been just so popular. Over at the playground right now, we have the Pulse Tempo. We would be putting in something called the Pulse Tennis. So it takes the same Simon Says kind of play ability, and it puts 2 of them facing each other, so teams play on either side, and there's not actually a tennis ball bouncing between, it's just the light that is bouncing between the 2. So they're still trying to tap the light and as it lights up and volleying the light back and forth. And we would put in 2 of these if the budget allows. We also are hoping to add some more sensory panels like the one that's in this middle photo. And the ASCO, the company, has talked with us about utilizing an artist, a graffiti artist from Kansas City, to digifuse his artwork on these panels. So from far away, they look like a mural that's off to the side, but when you get up close, it actually is an interactive sensory element. So a small child can come and play, and there's things to do on them. And we would, again, as the budget allows, see how many of those panels we could do and if the artwork is possible. So the other information, we would be retaining green space. The soccer goals would actually be oriented east-west to retain some practice area, but then it's also inviting for just other field play like Frisbee or football. Our construction timeline is we're hoping for 2024 construction, depending on Landscape Structures. We would definitely be hiring a local contractor to help oversee it, especially because some of the pieces might not all be purchased from the same vendor, such as the picnic shelter. The play equipment would be purchased from ASCO because we have found that is the most durable equipment and innovative equipment that is out there. That it's what we currently have over at the playground. With the City of Hayes and Park Department input and support, we would hopefully be able to keep this timeline. The high-end estimate with the contingency is $1,066,650. We do think that there is some cushion in there to bring this down, such as in the picnic shelter, and there's some other areas as well. But this gave us a good ballpark to start with. So far in fundraising, we've raised just north of $400,000 just in the past with promoting the ball field and then just the continued donations that have come in. We have planned grant applications in mind and continued Arc of Central Plains investment and just promoting within the community. We will do the Lemonade Stand Challenge again this June or end of June. All of those things together we think would help us to close the gap efficiently, effectively. So our action requested today is the Arc of Central Plains requests City
Organization for everything you are doing in Arc, not only in the Arc Park, but in the whole community. The park is outstanding. People all over the state know about it, and I appreciate it. Now, what keeps me up at night are big numbers. And the cost of the Qantas is
$465,000.
I was all 5,000. I was thinking it was at 2 in the morning. I was thinking it was 460. And Jeff, you may have to get involved in some of this conversation. it's fantastic that you want to give this to and increase the capacity of the park and make it a very exciting piece. It's only around, but I'm thinking of the upkeep, we'll depreciate it at the end of the depreciation period. We have to get rid of it. If something costs $460,000 today, 20 years it could cost $750,000. It's just a really big number, even though it is a gift. I don't ever want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but it does concern me, and I want to be sure that I understand the fiscal note associated with it. I also want to make sure, you made a comment last week about, and you said this last year as well, when you gave us the art park, that you wanted to be able to set aside monies for certain things. And I wanted to know if that has been done and how that's going to work, and is the city a co-owner of whatever that, so kind of a whole bunch of stuff that I think you and I have talked about in the past on other things. This one just wakes me up at 2 o'clock in the
I
morning.
know, because it is, and I will say though, the cost of playground equipment has just gone up. It's so expensive. And if you put the word inclusive on it, or accessible, it's 3 times. And the look and feel is changing. And we are poised to be really ahead of the curve by building things like this in our community. It really, that quality of life aspect of what a parks can offer and the things to do as far as amenities are attractive to families when they're looking at communities. But it is expensive. We have not opened the investment fund yet for the Arc Park. We do want to do an endowed fund where there's continued investment from our organization and from donors, things like the Festival of Trees at Christmas time, the lemonade stands at the summertime. Those established events can continue driving revenue that we can, fundraising money that we can continue to put in that account.
Will that be a shared account or jointly owned account of the city, or
I
given
think
by the
we're
city?
open to, it would be a designated fund that would be designated for the Parks Department. Currently, the Parks Department has 2 designated funds at the Heartland Community Foundation. One is designated for trees, and one is designated for beautification. So I see it being similar to that, but those details are negotiable. We did ask about opening it after the park opened, and we were told Michael Burgess was on our board at that time. He has since, when he became county commissioner, he left our board, but he had advised us, or he had been told to just wait until phase 3 was finished. But we could certainly, I think we would be prepared to open that at any point, because we know that it's important.
It's just kind of loose ends that I've been thinking about as this gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Sure. And we've talked about that. Yeah. I don't think that there's any reason why we couldn't and just go ahead and start putting money there. That's the thinking is, that fund will be able to help pay for things like maintenance, or that will help alleviate the burden on the city, because we want it to stay nice. And we know that they are not a forever, these parks are not forever. The flooring is 15 years is about what you get. And we want it to still stay nice. So that is important to us. I think it's just been the wait, still fundraising, or are we doing this investment and stuff, but it is not going to take care of everything until it has grown. But I think if it's available, that donors will seek it out, they'll respond to that.
Jeff, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium. I asked the question last week about the fiscal note, and you were going to put some numbers together.
Absolutely. So if you look at a depreciated cost over a 30-year period, the city would need to set back about $98,000 a year. That does include an inflationary 3%. Without take the inflation out of it, as of right now today, you'd have to set aside, if in 30 years, if it costs the same as it does today, you're looking at $65,000 a year.
And we know it won't.
Right, we know that. From a maintenance standpoint, really everything here is pretty much self-sufficient. In other words, it doesn't require a lot. We're literally looking at dumping trash cans, cleaning the shelter, the routine things that we do at all of our shelters. I did throw some money in for what we found. We learned this from the Arc Playground is that debris likes to blow in on the turf part of the, and so we ended up buying a little manual sweeper that you kind of walk behind it and it picks up the pine needles and the leaves and those sort of things. I did add that in because it's a known fact that we have to do that now at the playground. So I did add that in, but the fiscal note's about $5,000 a year is what we'd spend
5,000 a year
on.
plus the depreciation amount.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 5,000 a year for maintenance. Then the depreciated amount it would be just the equipment and the parts and pieces of the phase 3.
Just to be clear on that 98, so each piece of equipment was valued, its future value was calculated individually. So if one's a 10-year piece of equipment, that 98 has
Okay.
that 10-year annual investment in it. If it's a 15-year,
Okay, very good, thank you. How, in replacing it around the park, what are our average costs of replacement of equipment, and how often does it happen?
Well, so like, okay, so let's use Seven Hills Park, the playground that was already there before that is a standard. When we did the Park and Rec Master Plan, that was a standard type of equipment that covered a lot of different areas. They're multi-use, they're all connected. They have numerous 20 to 30 features on each one. That was kind of the standard back in the day. To put those in today is well over 100,000, and most of those we spent 25 to 30 on 25 years ago. That unit today is 23 and a half years old, and we can't get parts for it. We have to fight for parts. And they actually had to make a mold to make a part for us last year for that unit.
Wow.
So really, 20 to 25 years, those can be considered obsolete and in need of replacement. But right now, 3 years ago, we put a playground in on a southwest quad, as you may recall. That back then, that was $100,000, and that is very similar to what we have in our other parks, with the exception that one had a rubber pour-in-place as the fall zone material. So that did add to the cost a little bit. So you take that back, if you back that out, it's probably $75,000 3 years ago, but they're well over 100 now.
And the only reason I'm bringing that up, I absolutely love the art park. I love the thing of it, but this $460,000 piece of equipment's kind of made me a little antsy. Do you have a question while you're sitting there?
No, I'm just trying to absorb what you're saying.
Do we have to be concerned about that equipment and the mesh on it, the netting? You know, when the Arc Park first opened, what was our biggest problem?
Well, we had a few.
But we had one that we had little kids, not even little kids, older kids coming in regularly.
Right.
Do we have to be concerned about this piece of equipment with that?
Well, with that type of behavior, you have to be concerned with any piece of equipment. And this does lend itself to be a little more maintenance, easier to destroy if they wanted to. It does lend itself that direction because of all the netting and the ropes and the parts and pieces that it has. You know, a solid piece of plastic slide is a little more difficult to break than a mesh net. However, I will say that where we do have, which is very minimal, it's basically ladders, where we do have rope type things on our existing equipment, they've held up well, and we have not had any major issues with it. Now, and also the rope type stuff, most of all of that's got steel cable in it. So you're only going to do so much damage before you get to the steel cable, but you can't leave it like that.
What
And
about
we have a lot of new lighting now that we didn't have
Yes.
when they were doing that
Yes.
before, so that's a big
Yes.
plus.
Right.
what about the Sentry equipment? I mean, it seems like it would be easy to break.
I'm sorry,
The Sentry.
Sensory
Am
equipment.
I saying that right? All the lighted.
Well, it's electronic, so
Right,
as
that's-
we all use computers and know this sort of stuff, I mean, obviously those can be problematic. We had problems right off the get-go at the Arc Park.
Oh, did
with
we?
the-
I didn't
with
know
the
that.
pulse unit, but it was easily fixed,
Well,
and
okay.
since then we haven't had any issues. But yeah, I definitely think those will be more problematic than a standard non-digital type of playground unit.
I mean, you look around parks, it seems like by far that park is being used more than any park in town. I
It
mean,
is.
from what I see, which is great. I just, the more anything gets used, the chance it's going to break and it's going to cost to replace it. But I guess the question, I think I asked this last week, I know you still have to raise, dollars. My concern is if you don't have all the money raised and we let you start building it, kind of going back, I know this is a lot of years ago, the dog park, we wouldn't let them do phase 2 until all the money was raised. my concern is you get some money raised and we kind of start building a sidewalk to nowhere, and it's just there. I don't want it to look like that, and nobody in our community wants to look like it. So how do we prevent that? Maybe, Jeff, that's a question for you. But I know you guys are doing a great job. I believe you'll raise the money. There's no doubt I believe you'll raise the money. But I just don't want it to be things happen. Economy, things happen.
Well,
I think Kathy made.
I was going to say, kind of with what Kathy said.
And it still holds true.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we could fund it today, between all of the accounts that we hold. And so I feel even more
Kathy, you might step
confident.
up. I'm sorry.
Say your name.
Sorry.
Sorry. I'm Kathy McAdoo, the director of the Arc of Central Plains. Again, we could fund it today. It would certainly, empty all of our accounts.
Right.
However, we are very healthy financially, and our store has been a real blessing. The customer foot count continues to go up, sales continue to go up. So we are actually in better financial shape, and we were in good financial shape when we started the project, X number of years ago. We're in much better financial shape today.
I was just letting her show off a little bit.
I would add that
We
the
like
city
it.
commission could put the stipulation if they approved the fundraising for Phase 3 and reserving the space for Phase 3, you could put the stipulation on that no construction could start until adequate funds were available. And so if they fundraise adequate funds, that'd be great. If they fundraise to a certain point and Kathy wanted to write a check, that would also
That
be
would still
great,
fund
because
it.
funds would be
Yeah.
available,
I like
and they
that.
could start.
I like that
I think
personally.
that's a good
So you
idea.
could do that as part of any motion.
And I don't want anybody to think I'm negative about this. I just want to make sure we're going in with eyes wide open. I can't remember the last time we made this kind of an investment like this, at least in my time on the commission. So I just want to make sure we have done our due diligence, if nothing else, in our thought process.
I have a question on the Qantas. You said there's only 8 in the country so far? Yes. What's the time frame of the earliest one, the first one installed? How long has it been in place?
I was going to say a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah,
They do
2022,
4 a
maybe
year.
4, yeah.
Okay. Do you know of any issues they've had in those first 4 years by chance?
No.
I know when I was in Colorado Springs last summer, Colorado Springs was building one. My wife pointed out to me that we actually saw one in person. I thought it was a roller coaster. They were building one smack dab in the middle of Colorado Springs downtown
Okay.
at their park. So I'd be interested to see how it's held up since they completed it
Yeah.
last fall, or whenever they completed it. How it's held up in the middle of downtown Colorado Springs. I'm assuming it would get a little more wear and tear than we would here in Hays, Kansas, but I know
And
that-
obviously the components are built to last weather, withstand the different elements. Okay.
That was something, when we selected landscape structures, it's not the cheap park equipment. It's not the take the low bid park equipment. It is premium park equipment. And when we visited parks that were 20, 30 years old that had landscape structures equipment, they still looked great. They weren't faded. The equipment, sure, had some wear and tear here and there, but compared to the parks that we saw that were that same age with other equipment manufacturers, night and day. We knew who we wanted to go with after doing those park tours throughout the Kansas City area. We did go back and forth on, do we need to do anything in this area? But we made a commitment to the community and Phase 3 was part of that commitment. We have fundraised with the ball field in mind. So there is money to put toward this area. But we want a place that will still have wide community use. And then after the playground opened, we saw a need for giving our middle school and high school kids a place to play as well, because they're asking for it. They've been utilizing the playground. So it answers that. It still expands, the park. And then I think we'll be done. But this was sort of what we felt like was still fulfilling our pledge to the community.
All right, Sarah.
I have one other comment too. I think that there is a park project going on in Russell. I live in Russell. and I am on that committee also. So I am raising funds in Russell for an accessible playground in Russell. But the reason that that is happening is because of what happened here. And it's happening in communities all over western Kansas. It really,
Kansas.
almost a week doesn't go by that one of us doesn't get a phone call about some question, how do we get started, who did you use, so on and so forth. So we're a leader, Hayes is a leader in this area, and not just in northwest Kansas, but in the state.
I just have a quick question or two. Sarah, I just want to let you know that unlike others up here, I have no problem sleeping at night. I know that I know that you're going to get this done, and I can sleep very well knowing that it's going to get done.
Give you a couple more years.
I also just wanted to comment that, Jeff's love of baseball is what pushed us to fix the ball fields, which is allowing Phase 3 to be something cool and different. My first question is, now that you know all of the cool things that you're planning on doing, if you had to go back and choose between a baseball field and all this other cool stuff, which one would it be?
Well, at the time, the baseball field was not my baby. It was Brent Kaiser's baby. He was the one who was our activities director at the time and had started the baseball field. But I grew to love it, and it was going to be part of this. It just became the need of, it was harder to fundraise for because it doesn't have as wide of community of use. And the price just went up so much that it became this question of, are we being good stewards of people's money by investing in a ball field, especially if we don't need it with now the investment out at Bigel-Schmidt. So knowing what we know now, absolutely Cornhole, Qantas, we're heading the right direction. But we wouldn't have got here had we not had that as part of our Phase 3 to begin with. So I think it's all worked out how it needed to.
So my actual only real question is, again, with the Qantas, we're all talking about the Qantas because I think we all can
I
see.
can write it.
I watched the video on it that was sent, and I've talked to a couple other people, and the only concern people had was, and I know you've talked just briefly about putting some accessible adaptations to it, but when you watch the video, it's not accessible at all.
There's
And we're
going to
talking
have to
about
be-
an accessible park where everything is supposed to be accessible because that's the nature of the park, and yet we're putting a big, huge thing that's not accessible.
Fully accessible.
Not fully in the middle of the park. And that feels just a little bit weird that we're funding a non-accessible thing in the middle of an accessible park.
We've talked about it. And those big black things are called hammocks that they're on. So there will be some lower ones for points of entry. There's hanging points of entry. There's still slides. There's still some things. But we feel like we're enhancing the accessibility at the playground by providing an alternative for our more rambunctious patrons to go to. So does that mean they're not good? We want them to get off the playground? No, we want to just spread out the crowd a bit. And hopefully some of the elements of just the rough housing, some of the middle school kids are getting on top of the zip line and crawling, army crawling across it and throwing 4 kids at a time on the seats, and it's just not going to last if we continue to let them play like this. So we want to put something up that's enticing, that still is as accessible as we can make it. It'll have the flooring. Our athletes with disabilities are going to love the Qantas. They're ones who have mobility issues and some who don't. But will my little Abe be able to use it? With time he will be. I hear you though, because we have wrestled with that and talked about it.
But I would argue you're bringing more people out to that park than, like I said, any park in town. And so I agree with them. The older kids, maybe they'll go over to that and not roughhouse on. It's a beautiful park. I try to beg my daughter to let me play on the zip line. She says I'm too big. So
you're not though. You can get on it.
but it's fun. It's a fun place.
So
and
maybe not you and 3 of your friends.
Yeah,
at the
I
same
know,
time.
probably not. I don't have that many friends. But it's great that you're bringing kids out. Because kids don't get out and do that very often. So I think it's great, and I have some of the same questions, that he does on that. But if we get more kids outside, enjoying each other, I think it's great.
And I think that we could go ahead and proceed with establishing a fund so that it is there as an option to show our good intention to do that, because it is that's been, again, fulfilling the promise that we made from the very beginning.
one question now that you asked some really, really good questions. Did you consider any other pieces of equipment that would do the same thing for less money?
We looked at something called, I was calling it a ninja course, where it was basically taking the fitness type of equipment that you maybe have seen where they have like walking trails and then they put pieces of equipment every 100 yards or something. You can basically put that type of equipment and create a ninja course. And we had talked about doing one that was maybe a little higher level and one that was not. I think that it probably would have come in cheaper, but we went back and forth on, will they use it? Will it feel like you have to start at the beginning? Can you just jump on in the middle? Other questions came into play. And it just still doesn't quite have the zhuzh of the Qantas.
I like that.
Well, and we got a lot of input from
Is that French?
Jeff and Chris. We met multiple times with Jeff and Chris to talk
Yeah,
about.
they really were like, they just don't think kids will utilize it. I still think they would, but I do agree that the point of entry is more limiting when it looks like you have to follow a set order of a pattern, I guess. So, but we did talk about that. We talked about a number of other things and narrowed it down to what we've presented.
I keep watching Jeff. He keeps wanting to.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Mayor Reuter asked a question earlier about the quality of this, and it's only been around for a couple of years. I wanted to point out that the majority of this unit is already made in other forms. All they did was take and change the way it looks and is shaped. So all the ropes and the mesh and the little stepping plates and all that, those have been used on playground equipment for 25 years. So it's not like they just went to the manufacturer and pulled some rope out and started making these nets. It's not like that. These have been in existence. It's just instead of 4 foot long, they're making them 8 foot long, and they widen the pipes out. That sort of, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just
Thank
wanted
you.
to point that out. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments?
I don't have any other, but I think it's a good idea that we put a stipulation in that it has to be fully funded before things begin. And if you can do that by your 400 that you have so far, and even endowing in some fashion something out of your whole bunch of money, Kathy, I'm okay with that as well, as long as we know that it's all covered. However we want to say that.
So do we need a motion for this? And how are we doing this motion?
Yeah, I would just add it to the action requested.
Right here?
Yep.
Okay, I'll try. I'll make a motion to approve request by the Argus Central Plains to proceed with fundraising construction of a large shelter house, cornhole courts, additional play equipment, connecting sidewalks, and preserve green space at the Ark Park in concert with the Parks Department. And what am I adding to this?
With the stipulation that work will not begin
Nope.
until adequate funds are available.
Okay. And stipulation that work will not begin until adequate funds are available.
And by adequate, we mean fully, to be able to fully
Yeah.
fund it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, we don't care where they come from, as long as Kathy says, here's my cash and here's what it costs, then
So
they
to
get the thumbs up.
So to add to that motion, it should be fully funded before they can proceed.
Yes.
Is that enough?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Muschel, second by Commissioner Cunningham. Any further questions or comments on that? If not, I will call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you,
both
ladies.
for
Thank
all my
you.
questions.
Good luck.
For answering all my questions. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, so now we are on to the 2022 audit.
This evening, or this afternoon, we have with us Jamie Benishek and Danielle Hollingshead from Adams Brown to give us a report on the 22 audit. We had another clean audit this time. This is kind of my grade card, so guys, I got an A.
And we're listening very closely.
And if you'll indulge me just a little bit, I don't get that A without the staff that I have, recognizing them because they dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure we're balancing every month, every day, So Lori Hurdle, accounting specialist, city clerk Brenda Kitchen, account clerk Brenda Deckant, deputy clerk Jamie Bright, and accounts payable clerk Shanna Coster. So those ladies make me look good. So I appreciate their work, and we're one of those departments that kind of touch everything, every other department within the city, and so them working with all of those people takes them to do that. So I appreciate it. So they're going to give us a little report tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Kim. I can't say that the audit report will be as exciting as the ARC discussion, but I'll do my best not to put you to sleep. How about that?
That's good.
As Kim said, it really is a team effort to get the audit report done between him and his staff and us and our staff. And so we want to take a minute just to thank Kim and all of the staff for helping us get it done. I believe we're delivering a month early or a few weeks earlier this year. Part of that is because we got to present your audit on the KMAG basis this year. So a few months ago, you guys decided to waive the gap requirements. And so you might notice this audit report is a little bit thinner than it was in the past.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Really, thank you. We're saving some trees along the way. So some of you, I think, have it in front of you. We'll start with page 1. Page 1 is the independent auditor's report. There are 2 headings there. The first one says adverse opinion on U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. So that is that waiver that you guys approved a few months ago. We are waiving GAAP, and so we're issuing an adverse opinion, which essentially means we're not issuing an opinion on GAAP. Instead, we have the unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis of accounting, which we refer to as KMAG, budgetary basis, regulatory basis. It's all the same in our minds. And unmodified opinion, as Kim said, is a clean audit opinion. Page 5. This is essentially the nuts and bolts of the audit of the financial statement. So we start on the left side with your beginning unencumbered cash. We have the next column, change in accounting basis. That is just this year. It won't be there going forward. And you can see the total at the bottom. $24,000 was the net change in accounting basis. So after we took accounts receivable out and your paid time off accrual out, the net of that came to $24,000. And so then that gets you onto the KMAG basis. The next column is the prior year canceled encumbrances, and then we add in the receipts, subtract your expenditures, and that gets you to your ending unencumbered cash. So if we look in total, the beginning unencumbered cash was $62,407,000, and ending unencumbered cash was $60,325,000. So decreased about $2 million over the course of 2022. Large majority of that, or pretty much all of it, was due to your capital projects that you guys track, and you guys know what's going on in that fund. And so that's essentially what this page says. It looks a lot like the quarterly treasurer's report that you see. So any questions on this page? Starting on page 6 is the notes to the financial statements. These are required footnotes that KMAG says we have to put in here. There's nothing unusual except for on page 13, note 13 on page 13 is where we describe the change in accounting basis. And so when we did reach out to your bond company, they essentially said to put this note in here, and that should take care of them. If for some reason they reach out in a few weeks, a few months, and say they need something additional, we're more than happy to help fulfill that request. But as far as we know, this should take care of the change in the accounting basis. Page 15 is where I'll go next. This is a recap of the city's debt as of the end of 2022. So the balance as of the end of the year was $35,772,000. And so then down at the bottom, you can see each year how that debt will be retired. And then in 2046, all of this debt will be paid off. And then the next 50 pages or so is just each fund individually. And so if you wanted to look at the general fund or the capital project fund or any fund, you could look at each fund individually. But on page 58, actually, what I've gone over so far wraps up mostly the financial statement audit. The next piece I'm going to go over on page 58, this is your schedule of expenditures of federal awards. And so because the total down there at the bottom is $3,776,000, you're over $750,000, so that triggers us to have to perform a single audit. And so this year we performed our single audit on the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. So we took a deep dive into that program to make sure that those funds are being spent according to how that program requires them to be spent. And so we issue two other audit reports. One is over internal controls and one is over the actual program that we tested, and both of those were clean. No material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, no non-compliance. And so on page 60 is basically a recap, a nice summary page of what I've gone over. Financial statements at the top, there's a couple bullet points for material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, and non-compliance, and they're all checked no.
That's where I always go first.
Maybe I should go backwards next time. And
No,
then-
this is good, because see, this way we actually pay attention all the way to the end. If we go backwards, we'd be sleeping by now.
I'm sure these
Still with
people are
me, okay.
thrilled to be here for the audit.
And then federal awards, material weakness, significant deficiency, they're both marked no as well. Any questions over what I've gone over?
This is much more efficient than the other one.
I don't know. I don't think I made my 5-minute time mark. I think I. Other than that, there is just one little letter that you also should have. This is what we refer to as our management letter or governance letter that would detail any other conversations maybe that we would have had with management while we were here. There were no difficulties encountered in performing the audit. There were some journal entries that we provided, but most of those were just to get the books back onto the KMAG basis. So one nice thing about this is now your budget and your audit report is all on the same basis, and it should be simpler for Kim to just pop the numbers into the budget and away he goes. So
That's our goal.
We'll see.
That's our goal.
On the second page of this letter, sometimes we might have a section called recommendations where we would give any other smaller recommendations, maybe to just strengthen your internal controls, and we don't have any this year. So clean, clean, clean.
Well,
I
thank
move
you.
we accept the 2022 audit for the city of Hayes as presented by Adams Brown.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Barrick. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim and team. Good job, very good job. We say it often, how nice it is to review financials like are provided by our department, and you just put a star at the end and make it very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Okay, we'll call for a vote then. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 5-0. Audit is approved. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the annexation of properties owned by High Plains Farm Credit FLCA located adjacent to 1100 East 43rd Street.
Good afternoon, Jesse Rohr, Director of Public Works. I can't wait for the applause at the end of mine.
It's happened before.
Two items for me today, and they're both concerning requests for annexation into the city of Hayes. The first one is annexation of properties owned by High Plains Farm Credit, and it's located just adjacent to 1100 East 43rd Street. Most of us know 1100 East 43rd as the former Durfler's Harley-Davidson property. The business closed a couple years ago and has been purchased. And adjacent to that business, there's two vacant lots that are already platted. They're already zoned commercial. However, they were never annexed. And the new owner That has the building as well as the 2 lots, has requested annexation into the city. Again, I mentioned it was the former Durfler's business up there. There is a future project on one of the vacant lots to expand some parking for the new business in the building. The annexation request is contiguous to current city limits. It's also a consensual request, which makes it a much easier process. That's about the simplest type of annexation we do. And as you can see or you recall from the picture of the 2 vacant lots there, the property on both sides is already annexed, so this will kind of fill the gap between current annexed properties. Options on this one are pretty simple. You can either annex the property as requested or not, and this would be the action requested.
I move that we approve ordinance number 4029, annexing the properties owned by High Plains Farm Credit FLCA located adjacent to 1100 East 43rd Street as legally described within the adopting ordinance.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Cunningham, second by Commissioner Jacobs. Any other questions or comments on this annexation?
I'd just like to thank High Plains Farm Credit for not only expanding their business, but they're actually hoping to add quite a few employees, so that's a good thing for a community.
Wonderful. And I will call for a vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. And now we'll move on to the annexation of BBJ LLC property located near 230th Avenue and 55th Street.
Okay, the second item, again, another consensual annexation, slightly different in nature, which I'll explain in a second. This one's located at, we're calling 230th and 55th Street. This would be north of I-70 on the east side of 230th, excuse me, and south of 55th. So it'll be the northeast corner of that interchange there. Here's a closer up property. And you can see the 4 tracks that are owned by the same developer here, the same property owner. And 3 of those tracks, 1, 2, and 4, are under consideration for annexation with this item tonight, this afternoon. The pre-annexation agreement does provide for a point in time in the near future when track 3 will be annexed as well. So a little bit of background on these. In early, I believe it was January of 2022, a pre-annexation agreement was signed between the owners of the property and the city of Hayes that provided for a point in time in the future when this property would be annexed. One of those triggers was the installation of water and sewer along 55th Street that would serve the property. That construction is actually currently underway as we speak today. For the water and sewer will follow up shortly after that. This property is also contiguous with existing city limits. You might recall the annexations we had to the west of this on the Hess property here a couple years ago. Platting of the property is also currently underway, and that will be brought forth to the City Commission at a later date for approval of that as well. Same options on this one, either to annex the property as requested or to not annex the property. And this again is the action requested.
I move to approve ordinance number 4030, annexing the 3 tracts of BBJ LLC property located near 230th Avenue and 55th Street as legally described within the adopting ordinance.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrick, second by Commissioner Musil. Any questions or comments on this annexation?
I'd just like to see that, the population of Hayes grow as fast as the area.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That would be good.
Okay,
Look.
I will call a vote for this one. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Jesse.
We need to give an applause.
Thanks, Ben. All right. Now we'll move on to the Wheatland Commons Housing Tax Credits Resolution of Support.
Good afternoon, Colin Belzer, Deputy City Manager. So Old Town Development Incorporated, a multifamily real estate developer from Kansas City, has acquired a purchase option on an 8-acre parcel near 22nd and Wheatland. The developers do intend to construct a 40-unit income-restricted apartment complex. Financing for the project does require the allocation of low-income housing tax credits awarded through the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation. It is a competitive process, which is points-based, and additional points are awarded for the application of a resolution of support from the governing body that accompanies their application to KHRC. If awarded tax credits, that would be announced June or July, with construction moving forward to be complete at the end of 2024. The developer's experience includes recent projects placed in service in Paola, Kansas in 2021 and another development currently underway in Atchison, Kansas. There are similar housing projects that are already here in Hayes, most notably Stone Post Apartments and Lofts developed by the Overland Property Group. Last week, Commissioner Musel inquired about the difference between this program and the Moderate Income Housing Program, which only allows one application per community. The difference is the MIH, or Moderate Income Housing, is awarded to the community, not to the developer. So that's why when we've done MIH, we ask for the personal guarantee and all that. This is for developers, so there could be, it's possible multiple developers in one community could apply for this program. Here's the location of the parcel. Site plan, and they do mark a potential for a phase 2. Some exterior elevations. No city incentives are requested, and there are no direct costs to the city. So the options are to approve the request for resolution of support, deny the request, or do nothing. In the past, the City Commission has authorized resolutions of support for similar projects, most notably Stone Post Apartments Phase 1, 2, and 3. That's interesting. Okay. There have also been other resolution of support in 2017 for an attempt to redevelop the former Fort Hayes Trailer Park, and then also in 2014 for a project on East 22nd Street as well, just south of the Hayes Med entrance on 22nd. The action requested is to approve the resolution and support. The developers' representatives are here if you have questions for them as well.
I'll make a motion and approve resolution number 2023-008 in support of the Wheatland Commons development.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Musel, second by Commissioner Cunningham. Any additional questions or comments on this item?
I just say I hope you guys are successful, and thank you for trying to meet a need in our community, and hopefully you're successful and come back and do more. So.
Absolutely.
You know, I asked for population to grow as fast as the area.
Right, they're
There you go.
You're going to house them.
Exactly.
Man, that
we
happened
got to have a place to
immediately.
house them. That's like,
I'm going to vote yes if they decide they're going to take on the Fort Hayes Trailer Park the thing as well, because I love that so much. You'll think about it.
Maybe
All we
30
can
more,
ask.
30 more buildings or so. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Then we'll call for a vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you for wanting to invest in our community. We really do appreciate it.
And good luck to you.
Yeah, good luck.
All right. 2022 Sanitary Sewer Point Repair Project.
Well, now this is very exciting.
It says 2022.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm John Brown. I'm the project manager for the City of Hayes. And at the back in March of 2022, the Commission governing body approved a contract with Utility Solutions of Basehor, Kansas, to perform sanitary sewer point repairs. Before they began any work at all, Utility Solutions went out of business, and they notified the city of their inability to accomplish the project. Subsequently, the city called upon their bonding company to remedy the situation, and the bonding company has arranged for a different company, CC Steel, out of Maple Plains, Minnesota, to complete that work. You may recall from the previous commission meeting, CC Steel was awarded the bid for sewer cleaning and inspection, and the Water Resources Director, Jeff Crispin, at that time had described to his reference checks for CC Steel and how they had done work for the city. Most of the people that worked for that company, the superintendent and their crew, had worked for the city under a contract with Pipe Detectives, another company out of the northern tier of states. And he checked other references and found them to be positive reviews of that company. So this here is a visual of the 39 locations that are involved in the particular project of repairing failed sections of sewer line. And financially, this the contract with CC Steel is for $372,800. The original bid from Utility Solutions for the same work was just over $200,000. So the bonding company is making up the balance, the $172,000 balance. So we get the same work for the amount that we would have paid Utility Solutions had they done it, even though the cost to the bonding company will be more. CC Steel will get paid more than the $200,000. So the options, your options are to authorize city manager to execute both a completion contract with CC Steel and a tender and release agreement with American Southern, which is the bonding company for Utility Solutions. And been working with Don Huffman and his staff on city attorney on arranging those agreements to be made, and he's reviewed those. You can direct staff to another option, or you can do nothing. So the action requested is on the screen.
Are these two separate motions?
Would be two separate motions,
Okay.
yes.
I move we authorize the city manager to enter a contract with CC Steel LLC in the amount of $372,800 for the completion of sanitary sewer point repairs to be funded from the water reclamation reserves.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Jacobs, second from Commissioner Cunningham. Any questions or comments on item 1?
So the bonding company, that's who the original company had. They had essentially insurance, right?
Right, correct.
So it's not going to affect us in any way as far as insurance that we would ever have to take
No,
out.
it won't affect ours. And then the new company, CC Steel, will produce their own bonds for the performance of their work, and we won't issue a notice to proceed or pay them anything until they produce the proper bonds based upon the contract. We have to have the contract signed before they can actually obtain the bonds to guarantee their performance.
I'll call for a vote on first motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
I move we authorize the city manager to execute a tender and release agreement with American Southern Insurance Company, whereas American Southern will pay to the city $172,395.40 towards the cost of the sanitary sewer point repair project.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Barrick. Any questions or comments on this second portion? Now I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
All right. 27th and Canterbury discussion.
Woo-woo. John, before you start on this, I just want to say the reason I brought this up is with all the building, Canterbury, the new school, my thought was the roundabout that we have on Vine Street was successful. And I guess my thing is I don't want to wait until we have all that added traffic to make a decision on it. And I just thought, and you guys done the studies, that it'd be a good idea to possibly do this change. And that's kind of where this came from. I don't care either way whether we do this, but I think for our community, it'd be a better to help traffic move if we make this decision. But John, I'll let you go for
See,
it.
you do care.
I do care, yeah. I do care.
I don't care either way. It's disingenuous. You do care.
I do care, yes. Whether you guys say yes or no, I don't care. I'm just saying why I brought it up. Good point.
Politicians.
Yeah, politicians, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you clarifying that. Well, for the audience.
Good one, John.
Yeah.
His job, what, 2 more days?
Actually, it was Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
I do want to also state, too, that you recall from the work session, I have quite a few slides, and I went into a lot of detail. And there were some specific questions asked last week that I'm addressing in here. So I'm probably going to go through rather quickly some of the slides, but I will make a conscious effort to stop and point out new information. But if there's anything, if I'm skipping over something, just roundabout, and also about lane reduction along the Canterbury corridor. And then most recently, Commissioner Musil asked to bring that up again for the 27th Street and Canterbury intersection. So we had some traffic counts, and we talked about traffic counts on Canterbury compared to other similar 3-lane configurations throughout the city. And the traffic volumes are pretty much in line. In fact, they're averaging about 7,000 vehicles per day. There was some question about more detailed traffic volumes, so we kind of split that up a little bit, and you can see that as you actually get closer to 13th Street, the volumes actually go down a little bit, and the highest volume is right there to the south of 22nd Street. And so looking at 27th and Canterbury, as you well know, it's a 4-way stop, controlled intersection, and it functions well most of the time, but traffic does tend to back up after school, as shown there in the visual, where cars heading northbound and wanting to make a left turn toward the west tend to stack up. They also, from the traffic counts that we have during the peak hours, that was from the USD 489 traffic impact study that they are required to do before they can build the new high school, and then their plans on moving the middle school. These traffic volumes, as I discussed last week, they have AM, the morning peak counts. These are peak hours in the morning, and then the numbers in parentheses are peak hours in the afternoon. And as you can see at the existing traffic counts on the left, the peak turns are from eastbound 27th to southbound Canterbury in the morning, and in the afternoon it's the opposites, going north and then west. And then with the study, they estimated what the volumes would be once the middle school is moved out to the Old Hayes High School location. Those numbers increase by about 60%, as you can see on the visual there on the right. What might a roundabout at 27th Canterbury look like? Like I say, on the left is shown an image as the configuration is now, and on the right would be how we could actually install a roundabout within the existing footprint of the intersection and not have to expand out into the right of way or where the curbs are currently existing. And this has been done in several different places throughout the country. I did an internet search. Here's an example of a before and after in Michigan, and we were comparing the sizes of those. And the one we're proposing here at 27th and Canterbury has an 85-foot diameter. They called it an inscribed circle diameter. And the one in Michigan is 83. So it's very, very close in similar size. Andale, Virginia, before and after. It's also about the same size, fitting within the confines of a typical intersection that's 4-lane by 4-lane. And then there's other examples in Maryland and Minnesota, and there's some in Lawrence. I was questioned about Lawrence last week, and I reached out to their city engineer at Lawrence, and he said that 19th and Barker, which is shown here, is a pretty good example of a similar type that they converted from a 4-way stop intersection. They did that back in like 2003, and he said it's functioned very well. Although it is slightly bigger, it's about 90 foot instead of 85. And they actually did remove, and you can kind of tell from the imagery there. I couldn't find a quality image of a before from prior to 2003. They were all very grainy. But you can kind of see that they actually did change the geometry a little bit more than we're proposing to do. But he said it's functioned very well. And it's on a truck and a bus route corridor, so. And so we did a demonstration on April 11th. We set up cones and got a drone up in the air and did some video. And just to kind of orient you before we get started with the video, that we're looking towards the east, and the north is on the left side of the, north is Yeah, north is on the left. I have to reorient myself too. Yeah, we're looking southeast here. So the High Plains Baptist Church is right off to the left there. And I got about a 60-second video if you want to see it again. So I was also told, I didn't realize it last week, although I suspected there was something a little bit different, that this is sped up like 1.5 times fast to make it not last quite as long, but it gets the point across better, I think. So if you're thinking that it looks a little bit fast, that's because it's sped up slightly.
Should have saw Sandy drive through there.
I think
2.5 times speed.
All right. So we've got a few still photos that were taken from the drone as well. And you can see in this one the bus that went through on the video. The bus driver had no trouble at all. We ran a fire truck through there with ease as well. Here's a pretty good bird's eye view looking straight south down the corridor. Kind of gives you an idea of how it would be look once the cones are replaced with pavement markings. There were some questions about trucks and stuff, and while we don't have any pictures or videos of trucks that went through it, there were trucks that went through. Nex-Tech does semi-truck training at commercial driver's license stuff, and they came through with a couple of trucks, and it went very well. These images here show the tracking of the wheels on a semi with a 53-foot trailer, and you can see that they make the right and the left turns just fine. The left turn, as you would expect, and by design would track over the center island, but it's made to support that traffic and to be mountable, so the trucks shouldn't have any trouble either. So last week there were some questions about how well the corridor would function and perform with the increased traffic from the proposed school bond project. So this is a new slide that you didn't see last week. It's taken from the USD 489 traffic impact study, and it shows the level of service at various intersections. So if we look at 27th Street, the various turning movements or movements at that intersection have letters from A to F. Obviously, A is the best, it's a good, very good level of service. F is the worst, where the level of service is not good. And so you can, I know it's small, I apologize for that, but you can see that already, according to the criteria, in the morning AM peak hour, the right turn movement is already rated at a level F. The number that's in the parentheses is the backing up of the traffic. So you could actually build up 400 feet of traffic waiting for the turn. Now, once again, these are computer simulated numbers based upon the traffic counts, based upon engineering knowledge and formulas and the way they calculate. That's what they base it off of from their the counts that they took. So this slide compares the existing level of service both in the morning and the afternoon at 27th and Canterbury to the level of service over on the right after the middle school moves in. And you can see that the level of service gets worse, okay? However, converting 27th and Canterbury to a roundabout, which is right down below the right side there, it improves the level of service on all legs to an A. So putting a roundabout there is a good thing. And so when we start talking about further talking about the roundabout and the movements, the main movements are there in the right turns and the left turns in the southwest quadrant. When we talk about pedestrian crossings at the intersections, it'd be safest to cross pedestrians on the north and the east legs of the intersection where the traffic volumes are the lower. As such, staff, if you move forward, we propose crosswalks in the north and the east of the intersection, installing curb cuts and ADA ramps, and sidewalk as shown there in the green. And so based upon that sidewalk configuration, the cost to install around about at this intersection would be approximately $50,000 plus labor and equipment costs. And that's based on doing all the concrete work and the signage in-house with service division crews, hiring a contractor to install the permanent epoxy-type pavement markings, and therefore the estimated labor and equipment costs about $40,000, and add that to the $50,000, then we're about $90,000. So, any questions about the roundabout before I move on to the topic of the lane reduction?
How much would it cost to get signs built as leading into it that say approaching a Shawnabout?
I don't
We
think
can
it
make
would-
those in-house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think we've got some Photoshop people who could probably make pretty
Ignore
good.
him.
Pretty good signs.
Change the name of Canterbury to Sean's Circle.
Move on.
Moving on.
Thank you, John.
So, a lane reduction or road diet would reduce the number of lanes on Canterbury from 4 to 3 between 13th and 27th Street. This would be like what was done on 13th Street back in 2013 and Hall Street back in 2016. We talked a lot last time about the benefits of a lane reduction by reducing the conflict points, both on the main line and also at the intersections, particularly at the intersections. And here you can see how with the 4 lanes of travel, you can have some blind spots, and with the 3 lanes, you get a better field of vision. And the 3 lane also aligns up a left turn bays, so opposing left turn bays, so you don't create a blind spot when you have the left turn lanes lined up. So that's a definite benefit of the road diet. And particularly here at 22nd Street is applicable. The 3 lane configuration would allow the traffic signal light that's currently at this intersection, that traffic signal system, to function better by providing simultaneous protected left turns from both north and southbound. And the existing configuration that's shown on the left does not allow for left turn, those dedicated left turn lanes, where the 3 lane configuration shown on the right would allow for those dedicated left turn lanes. With the proposed 3 lane configuration on the right, dedicated left turns are aligned and for safe and simultaneous left turns. At 13th Street, 3 lane configuration north of the intersection will complement the 3 lane configuration already in place south of the intersection and better align the opposing left turns lanes. And then last week there was questions about how 13th and Canterbury would perform after the school district completes all of the bond projects. So we're looking again at the levels of service from the school's traffic impact study. And we see that 13th and Canterbury intersection currently operates at a level of C in the morning peak hour. After the middle school is operating out of the old high school, and the level of service at 13th and Canterbury would drop to an E. So before that was a C, now it's an E, and you can see we've got a couple of Fs in there. So the engineers from the traffic study and the school hired have proposed some improvements to the intersection, and namely that would be adding a dedicated right turn lane to the west leg and to adjust the signal timings. And that is shown right up here where they've added this movement, this right turn here. They also added the extra through lane to the north, and that lowers it to or raises it to a level C from the E. And I'll call your attention to this C, the 215-foot queue length. That's what they were proposing. Subsequently, we asked them to consider what would happen if we did the road diet there. And with the, with the improvements, that is 215 feet. With the road diet, that is still a level C, but the stacking length increases to about 315 feet. So while it does, the road diet would decrease the performance slightly from what having the 2 lanes through to the north, but not significantly. And so last week there was some concern expressed about having only one northbound lane on 13th Street due to the number of left turns that would be expected coming from the north, turning east to go into the high school. And so we, and the concern was of, traffic. This kind of zoomed out Google Earth view of the corridor going up to about 21st Street and having a lot of cars stacking up, wanting to make the left turn to go east to get into the school. And that having only one lane to the north somebody wanted to make a left turn would kind of block the northbound movement while they're waiting to make a turn. If all the cars coming from the north were filling up the center two-way left turn lane. While staff feels that the potential for this being a serious problem is rather low, we did propose a solution, an alternative to the road diet all the way from 13th to 27th Street would be to convert the inside lane northbound to a dedicated left turn as you approach 22nd Street. And you can see, I apologize, the quality of the video, the image isn't that great, but this is 22nd Street, and basically that inside northbound lane would just turn into a dedicated left turn, kind of like it does when you're on 27th Street approaching Fort westbound and then turning south onto Fort Street. And north of 22nd Street, we would go into the 3-lane diet configuration. So we also looked at the accident history. This is the same as what I presented last week, how the Canterbury corridor has about 15 crashes per year per mile, 13th to 27th Street being a mile. We looked 13th Street from Vine to Canterbury had about 12 crashes per mile, and Hall Street from 27th to 41st has about 6.5 crashes.
Hey, John.
Yes?
Can you go back to that?
Mm-hmm.
On the traffic data on Hall and Canterbury 13th to 27th, what is it close to the same amount? From 27th to 41st, the amount
It's more.
More.
It carries more traffic.
Yes.
even
Yeah.
with the added traffic with the
Right.
high school.
Canterbury carries more. You say Hall.
Which one?
No,
Hall carries more
Hall
than
carries
Canterbury.
more than
Even with
Canterbury.
the increase with the middle school, that's a good question.
That I couldn't tell you. Right now, it's a couple thousand a day more.
When with the increase, yeah, I don't know that I have that. I don't have that information committed to memory for sure, and I don't know that the school's traffic impact study was focused on peak hours. They didn't look at it as an aggregate over the entire day because the school only impacts it in the morning and the afternoon, and they look at the peak hours. So they didn't really actually give us that data as to what the overall all day long, full day traffic counts would be.
John, do you have a traffic count for 13th Street Vine to Canterbury?
I don't know if we had that. I'd have to go back and look at that
Okay.
slide, but I think I'm pretty sure the 13th from Vine to Canterbury
Yeah, you do. If you
is
go back into there.
slightly less than
One of your first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, it's way back.
okay. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, we had 6,700 there versus 7,000. But yeah, it's about the same.
And you can see Hall Street carries 9,800.
But Hall Street's just one lane each direction, correct?
Right, as
Correct.
is 13th
And
Street.
13th is,
3 lanes.
so 13th's at 3 lanes, but it still has a lot more than Hall Street does.
Yeah.
And 13th Street with 3 lanes is about the same as Canterbury with 4 lanes.
Yeah.
You have to say it one more time.
Say that again?
So 13th Street
Okay.
with 3 lanes, which is what has been proposed for Canterbury,
2 lanes with a turn lane.
it has the same amount of, with less traffic, has the same amount of accidents as Canterbury with 4 lanes. They both have more than Hall,
Yeah.
but Hall only has
3
It
lanes.
has 3.
3.
It
It
has a
has a
Turn
turn
lane,
lane.
yeah.
Yeah, it has a turn lane also.
But Hall also, from 27th to 41st, doesn't have a huge intersection.
True.
There's no 22nd Street, like with a hospital, with a major intersection in between 27th and 41st. So there can be more traffic, but there's not a major intersection in there.
Yeah, the biggest intersection would be 33rd Street. That's only, it's not through, it's only turning on and off 33rd.
But yeah,
And I just thought what you were saying is interesting that 3 lanes versus 4 lanes, and they have about the same traffic count, and they have about the same number of accidents.
I thought it was,
it was 12 and 15.
12 and
12
15.
and 15.
So
So
I
it's
guess,
just an interesting fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is.
so I think all we're saying is that because of the differences in Hall Street without a major intersection, the 3-lane versus 4-lane, the accidents aren't really that much difference if you compare 13th to Canterbury.
Hopefully the battery doesn't die on you.
It's fine.
No, it was good info.
Okay. So, the alternative we were proposing, was to reduce that down. We were talking about accidents, and then I had some slides about pedestrian safety as far as crossing a 4 lanes of traffic, 4-lane width of traffic, or with a 3-lane, you're only crossing 2 short 12-foot crossings. So this slide shows the proposed configuration at each of the main intersections, 13th, 22nd, and 27th, with the full lane diet from 13th to 27th and the current configuration at the 27th Street intersection. This slide shows the configuration at each intersection, maintaining the 4-lane configuration from 13th to 27th, and then the 3-lane configuration north of 22nd Street, and then I added in what it would look like with the roundabout at 27th Street for comparison purposes. Last week we talked about several different pros and cons related to a lane diet in terms of reducing the speed and fewer conflict points, and reduces. The Federal Highway Administration talked about reducing crashes for anywhere from 19% to 47% reduction, and being safer for pedestrians. The and the lane alignment, like particularly at 22nd Street, where we could line up the left turns, have them simultaneous, and the intersection with the traffic signal system would function better. And then the cons, obviously, are we'd only have 1 lane of traffic going in each direction. The speed is limited by the lead car and the platoon there because no one can really pass them. There can be some longer stacking at signal lights, and you can also have a reduction in gaps for entering traffic, and which I think is probably the biggest complaint that I may have heard from time to time on 13th Street, where sometimes it's harder to get on.
And that's what I've had calls about this week, was that how many entrances off the west side of Canterbury are there other than 22nd Street?
So there's the 17th and the 21st.
And then there's the medical offices all
There.
along there that enter on.
And, well, the hospitals on the west side, those.
But the doctor's offices are on the west side.
Oh, on the west side, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You said west, I was thinking east. So yeah, on the west side, yeah, you've got
Your other west.
Yeah, the other west, right. Besides the old American Legion, the Cloud Storage, and the Casey's area, and you've got the entrance into the frontage road,
Right,
and you've got the Ida Lane.
right.
Yeah, 15th Street. Yeah, 15th Street, and then the entrance in the frontage road, Ida Lane, another entrance into the frontage road, and that would
And you
be.
have UC Pharmacy.
And then you've got the businesses on the.
Brightline Preschool, not Brightline, out the other one.
north of there.
Via Christie, I
Going
think
across,
is-
yes. And Via Christie.
Financial considerations, we already talked about the material costs being $50,000 and in-house labor being $40,000. The cost to restripe Canterbury from 13th to 27th, we had estimated about $70,000. We talked about that with staff, and even if we didn't change the configuration south of 22nd Street, we would probably restripe it anyway, because it will need it needs it. So the pavement marking cost wouldn't really change either way you go.
I want to know why we didn't in-house do the roundabouts on North Vine.
And last week, somebody asked about funding, and there's adequate monies in the commission capital reserve if you want to pay this. And then the other thing is, last week, Commissioner Musil brought up the possibility of a roundabout at 13th in Canterbury. And I want to go on record, we think there's a firm possibility that could be a good direction to go. We're going to look into it more. We'll bring something back to you at a later date where we've had time to investigate. And I know, Sean, you want to get ahead of this, and I think you're right to get ahead of it. With the high school not being complete until 25, and then they start the middle school project, we've got time before we get hit with the full slug of traffic that's going to cause. So we'll take our time, look at 13th, and we'd bring that back to you.
Appreciate that.
So your options are to, well, this is an old slide, so you can direct staff to reconfigure the concepts one or the other, and direct staff to other options or do others, and we'd ask for direction.
I guess I'll make a motion for discussion, if that's right with you guys.
Yeah, I have a question. Can you go back to your slide where it's the level of service and it's the district study, and it shows 13th and Canterbury as being an E and then a C with improvements, but then still a C with the road diet? Yes, okay. So on that, am I interpreting it correctly that if we reduce to the 3 lanes, you still get the level C rating, but we potentially back up traffic farther?
Right, we could potentially back up traffic south of 13th Street a little bit further, about 60 or 100 feet, I guess.
Okay.
Further, it's about 5 more cars.
Okay.
And that being because
That's south heading north?
south heading north, right? And that would be in the morning.
Okay. And then where their study shows that they improve the westbound traffic that's turning south from an F to a C without the road diet with just improvements, what improvement changes there that's allowing that to go to a better letter?
So what they're doing there at 13th Street is they're adding a right. Basically, they're going to reconfigure. They're going to reconfigure the 3 lanes on the west leg of 13th Street intersection to having 3 lanes going eastbound, one being a left turn. So what we have right now is we have a dedicated left turn and we have a combined through and right. And here they're having dedicated left turn, a dedicated through lane, and a dedicated right lane. So they're taking and they're going to shift everything, and then there'll only be one lane going.
Okay.
That's within the existing geometry, though, right?
which is within the existing geometry. It doesn't really change because it's still only one lane. What they're basically doing is they're getting rid of the bike lanes at the intersection.
Okay.
And the way the configuration will
Don,
be
say that again.
Loudly.
Say it one more time
Loudly.
louder.
louder.
Getting rid of the bike.
They're getting rid of the bike lanes at the intersection. So at the intersection, a bicyclist would need to, the bike lane would end. They'd get into the traffic lane, like the Sharrow condition, with the vehicles cross the intersection. And then they'd get back into the bike lane to continue on. So it's not like the bike lanes will still be there once you're out of the area of influence of the intersection. But through the intersection, they need to get in with the traffic. So that would allow them to do that.
Thank you.
All you've got to say is,
A lot of changing. Wait till you get back to the.
Get back to the
Back to the action.
action slide.
Please bear with me. I'm going to make a motion for discussion. Okay. So don't jump to conclusion.
Do we? Because we can just discuss.
Yep.
You would need.
Your rules of procedure, you need a motion on the table
Yeah,
to
that's
have
the-
Okay.
discussion on it.
Okay.
I'll make the motion for discussion. Make motion to provide direction to city staff regarding a roundabout at 27th Canterbury and a restriping of Canterbury from 4 lanes to 3 lanes.
second.
Motion and a second on the table. Discussion.
I'm in favor of the roundabout at 27th and Canterbury strongly. I think, given the numbers that we are comparing on Hall Street and the functionality of Hall Street, except for the 3 or 4 times a day that are a big deal, I'd be in favor of restriping and to diet lanes.
For the entire corridor.
I would also, but I am a little concerned at some of the numbers you brought up from 22nd south, that it could stack even more, and that's kind of what we're trying to get away from. But, I mean, we got, what, how many years before that happens?
It'd be 26, I think, before the middle school's fully converted.
I mean, restriping can be changed at any time. I mean, can it? I mean, if we set up
Yeah,
now.
all we're doing
Paint,
is
it can be put on and taken off.
Yeah. I guess my suggestion would be to do it 3-lane all the way through. And if we see it's an issue, once it gets closer, they could always choose to restripe it in that area. But that's just an idea. I don't,
Yeah, I think having it go from 3-lane to 4-lane to 3-lane
would be a little confusing.
would be, because then you're going to have everybody merge into that other lane anyway in that short section between 13th and 22nd.
Possibly cause more accidents, maybe.
Yeah, and obviously that's all speculation. I'm not
Absolutely. I'm not either.
a traffic guru, but I would be in favor of the reduction of 3-lane throughout the entire corridor. And then, like you said, it is just paint. You can always change it any time.
Do I need to say in my motion that this paid out of commission capital reserve?
Yeah, I would say you've said enough to get discussion on the table. I think you could rephrase your motion once you kind of get a
Okay.
a consensus.
I'll just say I'm still not in favor of 3-lane, so all the way to 27th. I'm in favor of it from 27th to 22nd. But I've been down there enough times when there is a slow lead car and it backs up a whole bunch of cars, and whether it's somebody else or myself that goes around the slow car and keeps going. And it's, I mean, as you talk about bike lanes on 13th, it's an issue on 13th too, where people go for a long ways where they're behind a car that's going 25 or 30 on a 35 zone. And I just did it today, as a matter of fact. Went down.
You broke the law?
No, went down Canterbury, and there was a car at the stoplight at 22nd, and it picked up and went 25 miles an hour, and I went around him. And another car behind me went around him, and a third car did. And I'm just telling you, it's going to be, if you make it 3-lane restriction all the way, it's gonna make some people mad.
So I'm in full support of the roundabout at 27th and Canterbury. And I see no concern with the lane diet up to 22nd. I guess I'm not fully opposed to taking it to 20 or to 13th, but I'm not fully on board with taking it. Yeah.
I get it.
Maybe there is some consideration. I mean, we should really be thinking and saying out loud, it can be changed. We're just using paint and if we use it for a period of time and it does all the bad things, then change it over. Or do it the way you want, but if it's not as effective, then go back. I just objected to change. I think if you get, and I understand what you're saying, and I have driven this since our last meeting. I was trying to figure out your 13th thing. I finally got that figured out. But I'm still in favor of the 3.
Since Chief of Police is in the audience,
I knew that was coming.
yeah. Well, Reese is saying, and I know what happens. I guess the question I have for you is, do you guys see that happening? Is that a big part of the accidents where people zooming around? I know it happens. There's no doubt it happens.
The 3-lane, I think, will have a more calming effect on traffic.
Okay.
The passing, I think, is more common when you have 2 lanes which they can drive in. So you'll see less of it. The more radical people passing on those situations. But the 3-lane travel, with 3 lanes of markings will, I think, have a calming effect on the traffic, which would be safer.
I think a good way to look at it is the potential for an inconvenience versus an increase in safety. Now, I would say both of them are relatively minor. The inconvenience could be minor. I mean, nobody wants to be beside somebody going 25 and a 35, including me. But is it the end of the world? No. It's an inconvenience for 5 minutes and then you move on. The safety improvements are noted with a lane diet, but we don't have many crashes out there, so it's not like we're going to have an order of magnitude decrease in crashes. So it's a minor inconvenient trade-off for a minor improvements in safety trade-off. Our biggest reason for the lane diet is the functionality of the 22nd Street intersection. That signal cannot function at its highest capacity to handle traffic without doing something like this, and in a safe manner.
So I know we keep saying it's just paint, but it's $70,000 to
I was
restripe
going to
it.
mention that, as a matter of
It's
fact.
a lot of don't.
And so I guess that's part of my concern is if we restripe it to 3 lanes and it doesn't work, it's $140,000 by the time we switch it back.
I just am not seeing that it won't work.
Sure.
After Hall Street.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't a big fan of Hall Street before, but I'm a big fan of Hall Street now.
And in Hall Street, we had people emailing us, calling
Oh,
every
my
day. It
goodness.
was the stupidest
That
thing
was
ever.
so
And now you have people saying, I like it because it works better. It's safer. But this is different. I mean, it really is with the high school out there. It is different than Hall Street. I believe it is with the 22nd Street.
John, staff recommendation is to do the entire corridor.
Yeah, staff recommendation is to do the entire corridor, and that's based upon the locations of having to make that left turn toward the west are somewhat limited, and the volumes, I think, that if people are doing that, and then the options of, well, it's stacked full, I can't make the left turn, I just keep going, and then worst case is you get up to 22nd Street and you come back. But 15th Street, there's just not a lot of traffic generated to and from those places there on the frontage road along Canterbury.
And also, John, to be clear, when we do this, we're not adding bike lanes to Canterbury, correct?
You're correct.
Thank you.
Don't you think we should, though? Jeez.
There will be white.
There's fewer lanes. You might as well put some bike lanes around the outside then.
No, that's not in my motion.
There will be some areas of pavement that are off limits to vehicles, to motorized vehicles.
If, total speculation, but if we were to put in a roundabout someday at 13th and Canterbury, we would need it to be 3 lanes, correct?
Would have to go into.
It would have, or it would have to reduce like we are doing
Unless you wanted to
from
buy a bunch of
27.
right away.
Right, okay, okay.
And that sounds more expensive than me.
That sounds a lot more
70,000.
expensive, yeah.
If you were looking
Okay.
to do the same thing you're looking to do at 27th, then yes, it would
It would
be.
be, okay.
So, Sean, your current motion is,
My current motion would be provide direction to city staff regarding roundabout at 27th Canterbury, restriping of Canterbury from 4 lanes to 3 lanes, funded out of the Commission Capital Reserve.
Second.
I think that's right.
motion by Commissioner Musil, second by Commissioner Jacobs. Any further discussion on this topic? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nope.
Passes 4-1. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Thank you.
A lot of little drawings in there.
Yes, thank you, John.
Okay. And then, for the sake of the students that have arrived, Toby has agreed to move the R9 update to after the discussion on the Youth Leadership
Well,
Advisory Board.
I am impressed that they're still sitting.
That dedication
I
alone.
expected him to walk.
They sat through sewer line, audit, roundabout discussion. I mean, this is the ultimate city commission.
This was the ultimate meeting.
It's not
So-
always like this.
They're
So-
probably going to stay for the R9
I'm,
update.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
I
mayor
think
could have put this on in 2 weeks and there was only one item on there.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to test your guys' dedication, so appreciate
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
Okay, so we'll move on then to the establishment of the Youth Leadership Advisory Board. So this is something that had come up in my mind to establish. So, with my, which I still can't believe, my 4 years here on the commission, the thing that really spurred this was the idea of getting the youth involved in our community a little more. There's a bunch of other activities like this, but to have that direct connection to the city commission to really influence change in various ways was a huge kind of selling point to me. And having the young people get involved, working alongside CVB as the liaison, get in touch with people like the ARC project, just anything that could make our community better. And it starts with the people who, are our youngest involved citizens, is those in high school. They have amazing ideas, and I'd love to hear them. And so my thought was to establish the Youth Leadership Advisory Board, and the thought behind it was there would be 7 of them. Their only stipulations is they have to be enrolled in high school within the city limits of Hayes. They need to have good academic standing and show leadership qualities. And that's where I stand now. I did present a resolution that I drafted up that would establish this board, and I am open to discussion on any questions, changes, or comments to that resolution, so we can get the young people involved.
I'll make a motion proudly that we approve resolution number 2023-009, establishing the Youth Leadership Advisory Board of the City of Hayes, Kansas.
Second.
Motion and a second on the table. Any discussion on the resolution itself?
I think it's a great idea. Thank you for bringing it up.
Of course, thank you.
I think we have one of the young people already on the city commission.
As a fellow young
Fire tonight.
fellow young people with my gray hair.
I want to congratulate the mayor on putting this together. It is really a great program, and I'm excited for everybody involved. That part is a done deal. In my opinion, the resolution, I just wanted a little bit of clarification on this. We're hoping that this just isn't Mayor Reuter's deal, that there will be mayors going forward. So I had a couple little things that I wanted to look at the possibility of. I was actually part of creating an environment like this at Sunflower Bank when I was still there, and we still have it across the whole, in fact, all of the company now, and it does great things. The one thing that I would like to be sure, and I'm not sure how to do it, and Toby may have to answer, or you, Mason, Mayor, is I want to be sure that from this, I know how the structure was this time, and it's perfect, and it worked out great. I would like all the students in both high schools to have the opportunity to apply without having been recommended or anything else. And it sounds like a big deal, that it would be a problem, but I can tell you from my past world, it isn't. And then they're all looked at like all applications we get for any other board we have. I just want everybody to have the same opportunity. And if you think this is the same opportunity, I'm okay. But I'd like to see wording, if we're going to manage it going forward with different mayors, that we have an open application environment online.
No, I think that's great. So to get this one established, how I went about getting nominees to get this board filled was to go to both schools in the community, ask them, faculty and staff, to nominate students that they thought fit this qualification. So the inauguration of this board would have students that I would hope would continue on, pass on this knowledge to the next set of students that could apply from anything they want to do. As long as they meet those 3 qualifications that they laid out, they can apply like any other board. So if you want to be on the planning and zoning board, it's the same application process as this board. It just takes that dedication and initial gumption to want to be a part of this.
Exactly.
So it's open to every single high school student that wants to make the community better. And this inaugural board will be those students that show the other students this is something that matters to the city of Hayes. So they can drive those points home and be the leaders of the leaders, if you may.
Could we have them introduce themselves?
We absolutely
The ones
can.
that are here. I know
Yes,
some are
we-
involved in other activities.
Yes, and I decided to pick this at the best time, right towards the end of the school year, in the middle of spring activities and everything. So I know some of them messaged me and said, "Hey, I'd love to be there," but obviously, things are happening. It's busy time. So those that are here, we really appreciate you being here. But yeah, so we had the 7 students that were here that I'm recommending for approval are Evan Cox from Hayes High School, Cy Drobeck from Hayes High School, Henry Fitztham from Hayes High School, Isabel Jones from Hayes High School, Mia Lang from Thomas More Prep, Preston Murmas from Thomas More Prep, and Nathan Steckline from Thomas More Prep. So we have a good mix of not only both the schools, but a good mix of freshman students all the way up to going to be seniors. So we have a good mix of a very diverse group of students that are going to be involved in this. I'm so excited to see what we can have going on. So once this gets established, and I hope you guys move it forward, I will work alongside them, show them how to run a board like this. They'll nominate their own chair, vice chair, secretary, and they will take minutes, they'll vote, and then the chair or his or her designee will come before us once a quarter and present the project that they're working on, what they're coming up with, and just get our approval if they need anything, like they need to go work with Jeff in the park to do something. They'll work right alongside the city commission to advise us and what they think the community needs. So
I like it. G is where I'm looking at, that I think we could put a line in there.
Okay.
And correct me, it says that the committee shall be appointed by the mayor of the city of Hayes, Kansas, after consultation with the commission, subject to approval by the commission at the last regular meeting in April each year. Application open to all students with online availability of application. Does that make sense?
I'm fine with that.
And all I want is, when you announce it, whomever announces it, I just want that kind of covered in it.
Yes.
Well, it's like when you run for city commission. I mean, you
Right.
personally sign up for it, not
Right.
just somebody.
Not with somebody saying you
recommending it.
should.
Yes, yes.
So Sandy, if you want to, who made the motion?
Sean?
Sean, who seconded?
Me.
Okay. I'd have to look at Robert's Rules of Order. I think you can second your own second, but, so if you would make a motion to amend the resolution, and then somebody seconds that, and then you would take a vote on that, and then you would take action on Sean's motion, which would include your.
Well, Mason, didn't you know that? To give us proper instructions?
That's why they get paid.
Okay, I'd like to move that we amend the initial motion for item G on the resolution to state that the committee shall be appointed by the mayor of the city of Hayes, Kansas, after consultation with the commission, subject to approval by the commission at the last regular meeting in April each year. The applications are open to all students in the high schools within the city limits of Hayes, and application process will be online.
Second.
Yeah, then you have to vote on that motion.
So there's a motion and a second on the table. Any other further discussion for this?
It's a great addition.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. I think it's going to be a good addition to the city. Okay, well, I'll call for a vote on this for the establishment of the board.
I think we have
We have to vote on the amendment.
Oh, vote on the amendment. I'm
Yep.
sorry. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0 on the amendment. And
Now,
then-
now we
and
can
then
vote
the
on
Amended resolution.
Now we'll vote on the amended resolution. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you for
Doesn't
the.
that make you want to just be part of all of it?
Yes, yes.
It's not always like that.
And I have to teach you guys how to do that. So I'm going to read up on my own Robert's rules. So now we will move on to the appointments to the Youth Leadership Advisory Board. So I believe we have, 3 of you here tonight, right? Okay. If you would like, you can come up here, introduce yourself, and let us know what grade you are, what school you're from, and
Why you want to do this?
yeah, why you want to do this. So if you guys want to start, whoever wants to do it.
Hi, I'm Evan Cox. I am a junior at Hayes High School, and I want to do this because I think it would be a great opportunity to give my ideas for the city and just get experience for future me.
Wonderful. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for applying.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Gentlemen?
I'm Nathan Steckline. I am a junior at TMP, and I think it would be a really just a great idea just to do this, just to get involved with the community and learn more about our local government and to get more youth involved in it. So I think it's a great idea.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm Preston Murmis. I'm a freshman at Thomas More Prep Marion. At first, I didn't really know what this was when my teacher showed me the email, but then in further discussion, I was like, oh, this sounds pretty cool. You know, this would be a great way to improve my community and get better leadership skills and whatnot for myself and, you know, my peers.
Thank you very much.
And thank you guys very much for coming here tonight, sitting through all of this. I really appreciate it. Family, friends, and whoever else is here. So thank you guys. You don't have to stick around for the rest of it, but it is good information if you do. So I will.
Shamed him right into it.
I did. Now you got to stick around.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
No, you don't, no.
So
Do we need a motion?
I will ask for a motion for approval of the appointments.
So moved. Oh, sorry. I motion to approve the proposed appointments to the Youth Leadership Advisory Board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion on this?
Great idea.
Yeah.
All right, then I will call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. The Youth Leadership Advisory Board is established, and you are all members now. I will contact you with further information on first meeting and establishment of the rest of it. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, all of you.
Thank you. David, you can't leave.
All right. Thank you guys for doing that. I really appreciate it.
Good stuff, man.
All right.
Actually, I'm going to keep the R9 update pretty short. I had Andrea put these on monthly because my plan was to give you an update, but next week we're bringing the design contracts to you for consideration for approval at May 11th. So we'll talk R9 next week and then at the following regular meeting. So that's all I have right now, and then I'll give you a little more of an update next month as we move into the transfer hearing, the public comment hearing. We'll have more details on that. That's all I had.
Questions or comments on the update?
That was a quick one.
Yeah. Thanks for your continued work on that, Toby. You've been putting a lot of hours and a lot of time on the road, so thank you.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
Here's our progress.
Yep. All right, and progress with Professor Belzer.
Governor.
Governor.
I'll remember that. Is it evening? Good evening?
Yeah, it's
Colin
tomorrow.
Colin Belzer, Deputy City Manager. And for progress report, water leak repair at 1200 block of Pine was used by Service Division. The 25th and Main pavement replacement for an ADA ramp and sidewalk at 25th or 27th? 27th. Okay. Here's the 25th. Portion of concrete at 25th and Main, 26 yards of concrete was used for the repairs. 20th and Pine, this was also a portion of concrete that was repaired. And then 13th and Vine curb and gutter repair. So there's some before and after. The fire department held their annual ARF live fire training. So all members of Hayes Fire Department are required to complete this. It is mandated by the FAA. Several members of Dodge City Fire Department attended as well, and the cost is shared between the City of Hayes and Dodge City. The Hayes Fire Department participated in the Department of Children and Families Building Together Prevention and Partnership Parking Lot Party. The first bison calf of the season was born on April 18th. His name is Waylon.
That's awesome.
Fort Hays State University's Applied Technology class continues to work on the story time facility at Seven Hills Park. Project is nearing completion, and the installation of a few seats, hand railing, and the stage backdrop are all that remain.
I can't wait to see that function. That's going to be so
nice.
cool.
Security lights were installed around the playground and at the entrance to the splash pad. This project was made possible by the Hayes Wonder Women League, Stanyon Wholesale Electric Company, and Ralph's Electric. Vive will soon be installing security cameras and the related internet connectivity as part of the project. As part of the Larks Park's entrance fence projects, park staff removed the old fence and constructed concrete footings for a new fence and limestone pillars. This included installation of a new arch sign at the stadium's middle entrance. This project was made possible by Hayes Larks, Heartland Community Foundation, Ron Nelson, and the City of Hayes. Downing Nelson Oil Company has purchased the premier sponsorship package for the Northeast Quad at the Bickelschmidt Sports Complex. And the Arca Central Plains have purchased the premier sponsorship for the Southwest Quad. That's a cost of $8,000 annually to have that. You also get a field. You get the quad and the field. We also have sold 2 field packages at $5,000 each. So there's 4 fields still remaining. If you know anyone that would like to sponsor a field. Airport and IT staff. You knew it was coming.
Thanks.
Airport and IT staff obtained a sponsorship from Nex-Tech to provide phone charging stations in both the lobby and post-security screening areas of the Hayes Regional Airport. This is an effort to provide additional options for travelers who need to power up their devices. And Commissioner Musel proudly used one a few weeks ago.
For about 10 seconds, yes.
That's fast charging.
Yeah,
That's fast charging.
Kindergartners from Wilson Elementary toured the police department on April 20th and learned about the different careers within the police department. On Tuesday, April 4th, the Water Poster Contest Award ceremony at Sternberg Museum of Natural History occurred, and there were 629 entries this year, the most that we've ever had. The winning posters will be on display at Tri-Central's office supply throughout the month of May, and then again at the Ellis County Fair in July. As part of Fix a Leak Week, Water Resources does hand out the Leak Detective Program. And out of 157 leak detective slips returned, 21 toilet leaks were detected. Prize packs were delivered to 2 lucky, they were randomly chosen leak detective participants. New CVB marketing manager Brittany Squire and Janet Kuhn welcome participants at the Ad Astra conference for the first generation college students at Fort Hays State University. Hayes also hosted the Kansas Lek Treks. Okay, good. Which invites birders from all over the country to view the mating dance, both the lesser and greater prairie chickens. CVB, this is fascinating. CVB provided welcome bags for 140 participants.
Wow.
Melissa Dixon participated in the Destination Capitol Hill event hosted by U.S. Travel. The Travel Industry Association of Kansas, or TIAC, which Melissa Dixon's the president of, met with Senator Jerry Moran, Roger Marshall, Representative Jake LaTurner, and staffers from Tracy Mann and Ron Estes' offices. Hess Services started the extension of water and sewer along 55th Street east of 230th Avenue. The new 10-inch line was pressure tested, and work continues on the 2-inch line along 58th Street. They're still working or waiting on sanitary sewer manholes before they can proceed with the sanitary sewer line. Jade Court completed the construction of an 8-foot wide concrete sidewalk along the north side of West 27th. This was included in last year's street maintenance program, but construction was delayed until the spring due to gas line work in the area that need to be completed first.
Staff should know that people are thrilled with that sidewalk. Really happy about
It does look great, too.
Morgan Brothers started the golf cart path replacement project by working on the paths adjacent to the cart pit sheds. Reconstruction of all the paths on the front 9 along with the remaining asphalt portions on the back 9 will continue throughout the summer. The renovation of office space on the 3rd floor of the water treatment plant is complete. The remodel project divided what was one large room into 3 offices and a conference room. The 3 offices will house the R9 ranch manager, R9 project manager, and the director of water resources. Parks Department seeded the area around the new fuel farm with buffalo grass. We just need rain and some warmer weather. The airport hosted the Early Childhood Connections Daddy and Me event. Kids were able to tour the ARF station and Eagle Med and got to finish off with treats. And fire station number 3 is moving along. They have started pouring the footers.
Excellent. Very cool.
That is progress.
Thank you, Colin. All right. Governor, Professor. All right. Melissa, Hayes Happenings.
Save the best for last. Good evening, Commissioners. Melissa Dixon, Director of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So when people tell you there's nothing to do in Hayes, this is your material. The Downtown Hayes Development Corporation has started a new event called First Fridays at some request of some citizens. They said other communities do this, we could totally do this. This is going to be a pop-up at the Downtown Pavilion. Beautiful space there. The first one will coincide with Cinco de Mayo, so I believe there will be some taco trucks, perhaps some frozen margaritas, beverages for all ages. So encourage people to make this first one a great one. Out at Creekside Resort RV Park, there's a movie series all summer for the month of May. The first one will be on a Friday night with the next 2 on Saturday nights. Those movies are free, and there's a little snack shack out there. So if you haven't been out there, drive by, see it. They have new cabins out there as well. May 5th, Saturday, Chamber Golf Tournament will be going on, and I know if Sarah Wassinger was here, she'd say be sure to download the app so you can bid on some of the great items in their auction. The Fox Theater has 4 big concerts in the month of May, and the first one, 49 Winchester, this group actually has a song called Hayes, Kansas. And like a good country song, it's sad. It's about when they got stuck here. So we're going to be sure we're going to be sure they have a positive experience this time around.
And they are opening for Luke Combs on his European leg of his tour.
Yes, they are going to be big.
It is going to be a fun concert.
So go see them now.
They're one of my favorite bands.
They're awesome. Be sure you have these commencements and graduations on your calendar. NCK Tech will be on a Thursday, Fort Hays State Friday, Saturday, followed by Hayes High on Sunday, and then TMP the following Sunday. 2 races out at RPM Speedway, Mother's Day Special and Driver's Appreciation Night. And our Hayes Fire Department is having Front Door Friday nights. And this month it will be May 19th. So stop by, hang out, see the fire station, and visit with some firefighters. May 27th is opening day of the Downtown Hayes Market, and it's also their 10-year anniversary. So they're going to have a big party, lots of activities, music. That'll be a great one to go to. Same day is the opening park of Hayes Aquatic Park. So if you haven't got your early bird season passes, get to Hayes Rec and get those soon. Out at Bickelschmidt Sports Complex, they're going to have a USSSA Hayes Hit Fest May 6th, and then they're going to have opening day on May 24th for our local kids, baseball, t-ball, all those teams. And be sure you know this weekend is Art Walk. It's going to be all day Saturday, not the normal Friday night. You've got all day to see stuff on Saturday. And also there's a big tournament out at the sports complex. We're expecting about at least 80 teams. So they're going to enjoy that turf. Any questions? thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you.
All right. So I thought Reese disappeared. He was just leaning back.
Just leaning back.
Yes, Commissioner inquiries and comments. Commissioner Cunningham.
Just want to again say that the addition of the youth board is an amazing collaboration to get our youth involved, get them to understand city government. So thank you for bringing that. And then I guess lastly, with our decision about Canterbury, I hope that the community will grant us patience in that process and give it a try.
Commissioner Barrick.
Just want everybody to know that when it's in construction, you got to turn early to get to the Sternberg.
There you go.
I'm going to mess up my people getting to the museum.
You got that nice long big road right to you with a big sign.
And I just want to, appreciate that we were able to finish up tonight before my Christmas celebration of the NFL draft tonight. Thank you very much.
Oh, good. Commissioner Jacobs.
I'd like to reiterate what Commissioner Cunningham said. I hope the citizens of the community know that put us in these positions that we work really hard to make the right decision for everybody. I had a lot of conversations about people through all of this, and we did the last time around. And we try to take everything under consideration and make the very best possible decision we can. If you still disagree or you want us other information, you have all of our numbers are right on the website. So please call us, give us all the input. I think it's going to be a great addition. I think everything we're doing right now is really exciting. So I'm proud of us, guys. We're doing good stuff. I think so.
Thank you. You are too.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I was hoping.
Good. Vice Mayor Musil.
I will agree. I think we had some great discussion, and it's nice we can actually discuss, disagree, and agree, and have civil conversations. And, with the roundabout, it's not an agenda-driven item. I think it's hopefully better for the community. That's the reason we do this. And, there are certain things that we can change if it don't work, and I think we will. But I think if we lean on the experts that know how, streets and stuff like that, I think we'll make good decisions. And I think tonight was a good decision, but we have plenty of time to figure out if it is. So.
Thank you. Yeah, if anybody needs to see what's happening in the community, I think we covered every single aspect we possibly could.
We must have.
Yeah, I mean, from parks to sewers to streets to R9, kids and housing, and it's everything. And a clean audit, man.
Yeah.
And a clean audit.
That's the best part.
We need to do a bond.
Wait a second.
Wait, hold on. So, we have a lot going on, and yes, if the community give the staff patience, they did all the research they needed to do to make sure that the information they gave us is accurate and up to date and what they believe is best for the community to help make us make that decision. So, John, you and your crew, appreciate it, and Jesse, good luck to your staff as well. So thank you for that. And then, commissioners, thank you again for taking on this conversation to get that board established. It really means a lot to me to have something like this to put our name to. I hope that this board brings about a lot of good, positive change for the young people in our community and the community at large. So thank you for taking that time. I think we might be able to adjourn then at 6:20 p.m.